Everybody, we're going to go ahead and start doing monetary and fiscal policy, which is our last state standard unit for the year. Let's go ahead and get that started. So, monetary and fiscal policy is how our government interacts with money and how they use your money to run the government. So, it's found in Ohio Learning Standard number 23. So, the federal government uses spending and tax policy to maintain economic stability and foster economic growth. Regulatory actions carry economic costs and benefits. So, first, we just have to have a working definition of the two words. So, fiscal policy is how government spends our tax dollars. So, how is the government spending the money? How is taxation being used to influence the economy? Monetary policy involves controlling the actual physical supply of money and credit and interest rates to influence the economy. So this is how the government determines interest rates, the value of our money. So like you hear that like the value of the dollar has dropped or compared to another currency, it's gained. Like that's monetary policy. It's also printing money, like how much money is the government going to print? How much is it going to allow in circulation? How much is it going to recall and destroy? So, first, we need to know what taxes are. And if you guys have a job, you probably already know what taxes are because they get taken out. Benjamin Franklin said nothing is certain but death and taxes. So, taxes are payments made by individuals and businesses to support the activities of government. So, it's found in Article 1, Section 8. Congress has the power to lay and collect taxes. It's ordered to pay the debts, provide for the common defense, and the general welfare of the United States. Obviously, our federal, state, and local governments have taken a ton of liberty when it comes to defining paying debt, common defense, and general welfare. So, income tax. The money you make at your job is considered taxable income. You may choose to have a certain amount of money additionally withheld to help pay for home loan interest, charities, or local taxes that may be levied. So, anything that you make through your own efforts is considered taxable income. Also, anything that you make off of investments, anything that you make off of interest in a savings account is all considered taxable income. If you receive a certain amount of money as a gift over a certain dollar amount, it is also considered taxable income. The government at the federal, state, and local levels may reduce the amount of income that is taxable based on your number of dependents, and those are people who primarily depend on you or another person for food, shelter, and clothing. So if you have two kids, you have two dependents. If you have two kids and one of the parents is a stay-at-home parent, so say that you have like a stay-at-home mom, then that person could technically be a dependent on the other parent, and so you would have three dependents. And what it is that they basically subtract how much money you owe the government based off of how many dependents you have. So all of this kind of runs through what we call the Federal Reserve System. And the United States is divided into 12 Federal Reserve districts. Each district has one Federal Reserve Bank. Roughly half the banks in the United States are members of the Federal Reserves, and the other banks are not protected or insured by the Federal Reserve, and they are responsible for the money their patrons give them. So it'd be like the FDIC, the little plaques that you see at the bank when you go to take money out or cash a check. The Federal Reserve is run by a board of governors in Washington, D.C. that supervises the Federal Reserve System. The president appoints these members, who then must be ratified by the Senate, just like any other presidential appointment. And the Board of Governors is largely independent of the president and the Congress. And that's basically trying to keep the national supply of money away from political pressures. The Fed, or the Federal Reserve, it's often shortened to the Fed in the news and how we're going to talk about it. And it has two main jobs. It's going to supervise those 12 district banks, and it's going to determine the monetary and credit policies of the United States. And the Fed uses three tools to do that. One's the discount rate, which is the interest rate. How much money are you going to be charged for borrowing money? The reserve requirement. This is the amount of money that a bank must keep in its vault at all times. And buying government bonds through open market operations. So economic expansion is when you're trying to encourage people to spend money. So purchasing government securities, reducing the interest rate and reducing the reserve requirement serve to help in 4 different areas. It increases the physical supply of money. There's more money, people can spend more of it. They're going to decrease interest rates so that people are more willing to go out and get a car loan, a home loan, student loans. All of those things are affected by the Federal Reserve's interest rate. It's going to encourage consumer and business spending, and it's going to foster economic expansion. Expansion means to get big. So they want the economy to get bigger, right? So like if we look at the COVID-19 stimulus checks, that is to foster economic expansion. People aren't physically going out into the world as much because of this virus. So they're not spending as much money at restaurants or stores are closed or restaurants are closed. So we're going to give some money out there to help stimulate the economy, keep people spending money. So right now we're in an expansionary period. The opposite of that is economic contraction. So you're going to sell government securities, which are like bonds. You're going to increase the interest rate and increase the reserve requirement to shrink that supply of money. So you're going to reduce the money supply. If there's less money, there's less opportunity for people to spend it. You're going to increase interest rates. If you jack up interest rates, people aren't going to want to borrow money from the banks. This is going to depress consumer and business spending, and it's going to foster economic contraction. Normally, we do this if we're losing the value of the dollar. So if you have too much of something, it loses its value. And the same holds true for physical money. So you want the economy to get smaller. People are spending too much money because when people spend too much money, they borrow too much and then they default on their loans. And then you have an economic crisis like what we had in 2008. So you want to contract at that point. All right. That is all for this video. Thanks very much for